Hey Google, what is anxiety?
According to Mayo Clinic, anxiety, intense, excessive, and persistent worry and fear about everyday situations. Fast heart rate, rapid breathing, sweating, and feeling tired may occur.
Sounds rough. I'm Jessica. I'm a political scientist and spiritual advisor here on YouTube, and I like to make applied philosophy videos where I take different philosophy lessons that I've been teaching and show you how you can apply them in your everyday life. And today we're going to be discussing anxiety and how I've helped a lot of clients quell their anxiety so they can have more productive lives. And we will get into all that. So please stay tuned. Thank you for stopping by, and stay tuned. Thank you so much for stopping by today. I know you're going to have a fantastic day, and I hope all who are watching this are so blessed. So thank you for coming, and you're very special to me, so thank you for tuning in. I had a lot of clients come to me for guidance in dealing with anxiety. So I am not a psychiatrist. They knew this up front. I'm not a psychologist or anything. I'm a social scientist, as in political science is my specialty. But that means that I was at a dilemma of how do I help these people? I know that I can. I am helping them in whichever ways because I'm researching it. I'm gonna present to you today what I've found about through my research. We're gonna talk about what philosophy says about anxiety and what the spiritualists say about anxiety, what psychology talks about anxiety, and what most organized religions say about anxiety. And that wasn't good enough answers for me, so I came up with my own thought experiment to get deeper into that. So through my research, I was coming up with some pretty good answers. And again, coming up from my form of science, I started with philosophy and ended up with Stoicism because it really talks about mental fortitude and dealing with anxiety. And some of the tenets of that are first identifying what's in your control, what is the immediate whatever is happening to you, your response is what is within your control. So you also are encouraged to accept what is instead of thinking of getting in your head of like, if this were to be like this, then this would happen. And it just says, no, you have to embrace what is. And also it talks about being mindful and present. So yes, this does help people deal with anxiety, and that is a great answer for plenty of people dealing with anxiety, how Stoicism talks about all of these things. But it's not a good enough answer for others because some of us and some people in the world that I have helped deal with rage, and that is a biochemical reaction. So as much as we can count on Stoicism to tell us that we shouldn't react, doesn't mean that we can't react because you're holding it back within yourself. But that itself creates this hate, anger, resentment, fear cycle. And that is, it builds up, we know now biochemically, with no discharge. So with spiritualism, where I kind of looked for answers next, would be the form of meditation to quiet the mind and clear out that cortisol and those negative feelings and things like that. And that has been a solution for plenty of people as well. Because becoming aware that you can control biochemically what is happening within yourself and choosing that path of grace, peace, love, and kindness. And also, understanding that you and I are a reflection of the grander picture and part of one another, and we are all connected in that way. So do unto others. You know, also with that too, the spiritual side of it, then we began rolling into the Christian philosophy of, and really if you look at St. Francis of Assisi, how he discusses the accepting what is, and I'll put the quote up here. I don't want to mess it up right now, but if we just understand that all of our problems are human problems, and when we give it to God and that ultimate understanding, that is a great solution for some people too. So none of these that I'm giving are not solutions for some people, because they may as well be. And then we could just stop there. But let's keep going. But still, let's dive deeper, because while you can show people and tell people about how to deal with anxiety with ways of either religion or philosophy or through meditation or all these other means that we've dealt with it, there are some people that don't really have a grasp of a either higher power or divine or spiritual world, whatever you want to call that. So to them, they appeal to a higher authority of science, as in, people that are qualified to talk about anxiety. And then we get into what you've probably heard before, which is the fight, flight, or freeze response. So I want to read about that so I don't mess it up from Wikipedia. The fight or flight, or fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, also called hyperarousal or the acute stress response, is a physiological reaction that occurs in response to a perceived harmful event, attack, or threat to survival. It was first described by Walter Bradford Cannon in 1915. So, looks like around the time that we were learning all kinds of things, psychology-wise, at that time. Now, so of course, sciencey science doing its thing. We understand now that anxiety creates a biochemical reaction, so we have treated that with a chemical. So here you go, here's your prescription. There's no more anxiety. That won't be a problem. Also want to say, put a little note here about Bruce Lipton, and you should check out his book because he expounds on some of this too. Okay. Now, okay, so let's throw some political scientist, spiritual advisor into this, okay? One of the ways that political scientists will come up and philosophers will come up with solutions is to come up with some ethical thought experiments to kind of dive deeper into this without just by exploring ways of thinking, because we overthink things a little bit sometimes. Okay, so this that will be an entirely separate video, because it gets really deep in the weeds on what I created called the trajectory dilemma. And I'm going to give you just a brief overview of it now that will wrap up this entire video and explain why I teach the way I teach when people come to me for their anxiety. Okay? Based upon where you're standing and your perception of an imminent threat, a threat to yourself, a threat to your well-being, future well-being, or a threat to your family or society overall. Excuse me. So, based upon the way you react to that imminent threat will give me an insight into whether your panic response is fight, flight, or freeze, or that new one, fawn, that they have added in there. Look it up. I'm sure most of you are familiar with this anyway. Okay. So, based on that reaction, which most people are great identifying, oh, I freeze up, oh, I fight, I flee, all this. When anxiety occurs, it is this mostly to do with this unknown. Okay. The way, no, what is unknown to me is how I managed to record that perfectly in one take. Slam my laptop down, grab it, and run out the door and lose the whole file. But you know what? I'm sharing this with you to tell you that things are just meant to be the way they're meant to be. So just embrace it. That's been the whole lesson anyway. So, and I hope my squeaky chair makes you laugh. Because every time I'm editing this, I'm like, whatever. People think I farted. Who cares? Laughing with you or they're laughing at you, it's still funny. You know what I mean? Let's just wrap this up because I can deliver it just the same as I did because I've been talking this lesson for quite some time now. So what started as trying to gain an understanding of anxiety response and exploring that in that, scientific psychology kind of way, I really ended up uncovering a deeper moral question, which is the manner in which you choose to preserve what in this particular dilemma reflects what you value, what you hold as morals. Do you have self-preservation or do you have society preservation? Do you have posterity preservation, as in what's the future, what is the present, what is self? Okay. So, with all of the responses to this, the ones that are self-serving are the freeze and the flee. Those are self-preservation. The fight response can be self-preservation, but it is also more associated with, fight, fight, fight for what you believe in, and is pretty much the only useful one of those, if you ask me. So, a button and listen, because what I've done with a lot of my clients for step one to help with this is to get them, if they are in that freeze or flee mentality, I have to get them to the fight of stage of this, because that is how you get the motivation, because that is the only thing that I can really work with is if you're being motivated. Squeaky chair. Okay. Now, that being said, flight can be self-preservation or society preservation. This is what I mean by it started scientifically and then rolled into this big ethical thing. When we value society and posterity, this creates a higher purpose. That higher purpose. Sorry, I have really bad allergies, okay? And it is like Tennessee in fall, okay? When we are aware of that higher purpose that we want to care for and protect our society, children, preserve that our morals, things that are good around us versus ourselves, it creates this entire other response, which I like to call forfeiture. We have so much more dedication, mental focus on fulfilling that higher purpose of what we're supposed to be doing or protecting those things that are worth protecting that we can completely sidestep this whole anxiety everything. Because we are on task, we're on mission. We can control ourselves, our cortisol, our heart rate, all of these things. Because we don't have time for the anxiety response of that. When I say I don't have time for it, I'm saying when we are in an anxiety response mode, when we are playing into the whole game of the fight, flight, freeze, fawn stuff, then we are at higher heart rate and cortisol levels and all these other things that disrupt all of our mental faculties. Practicing forfeiture of the entire thing and staying on focus, on purpose, on mission, what you're supposed to be doing, completely sidesteps this entirely. I wanted to read, this is like, they have like the technical data in the back things. I wrote this like a while ago, and I think it's really relevant. Okay, so war is chaos mitigation through calculations. Within the moral and ethical confines of society, leaders determine a course of action for a purpose. In this experiment, we determine how an individual reacts, reflects his true fears. It is a reflection of his perspective and has society's moral principles. When people serve as defense, they are prepared to fight. That is purpose. Let me summarize all that. Being put in a defense position is giving the person purpose. That is the only outcome of the trajectory dilemma. So that is why my prescription for anxiety has been to fulfill a higher purpose. What artistic gift has God given you that you are supposed to use in this world on purpose? And are you fulfilling that purpose that serves your, not only yourself, but humanity, all of us that are connected? You can be atheist or Christian or any other kind of religion, whether it be Judeo or animate, whatever it is, and still understand that if I am dedicated to making things better, then I'm not in my head. I'm not. So that means you have to concede. Back to the Christian theology of just give it to God. Okay, Sarah. Okay. Thank you for watching, and blessings to you, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye.